Welcome to State of Wellbeing, a podcast from South Dakota State University. The State of Wellbeing is a holistic well-being podcast with the goal of supporting the campus community as we strive to be a growing, high-performing, and healthy university.
Welcome to the State of Wellbeing podcast featuring Study Abroad. I'm host Shari Landmark from the SDSU Wellness Center, and today we have two guests, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Kailee Loofe. I'm a student here at SDSU. I am a junior this year studying political science with minors in legal studies, global studies, and history, and I have been on a few study abroad programs myself.
And I am Cassandra Stangeland. I'm the Assistant Director for Education Abroad here at SDSU. So I get to work with all of our students that are studying abroad, as well as our faculty leaders, etc.
Great. So the next little while, we're going to be talking about just really how the global experiences expand well-being and confidence and connection through the travels. So are we ready to travel through this next podcast, right? So first of all, how many students describe study abroad as life-changing? From your perspective, what makes these experiences so transformative?
Study abroad is what we consider really like a high impact practice, and it challenges students to step out of their comfort zone. Students go and have this really amazing experience where they really have to they experience new things, really get to use their problem solving skills in new ways and further develop their independence in ways that they really maybe wouldn't have just staying here in the States, but when they come back, they can feel like they can do anything. Kailee?
Yeah, I would backpack off of that. I think when you mentioned independence, that would be one of the main factors. I think for a lot of students, including myself, when I studied abroad, it was the first time I'd ever traveled without my family. And I feel like that's a big change. Going abroad with your family and maybe having them there to support you is a lot different than going with maybe a new group of students who've never even met before in locations that you might not be super comfortable with. And I think this experience just makes you super adaptable in the sense that you're able to communicate with new people and experience all these different places and sites and maybe some drastically different cultures than we might experience here in South Dakota or in the U.S. in general. I think that just those experiences themselves can just be life-changing, as you might even open your eyes to the world around you in a way you've never experienced before being in the Midwest or in South Dakota in general.
So Kailee, I'm going to kind of piggyback on that for the kind of looking at that student's overall well-being, the mentally, socially, emotionally. If we can kind of dig in a little, it's going to be a little personal, but what are some of those feelings that you maybe had when you studied abroad? You had mentioned first time away from the family, traveling by yourself.
Yeah, so for me, Cassandra can vouch for me too. When I went to go on my first study abroad experience, which was the Jack Start Abroad program to the Netherlands and Belgium, I was kind of a nervous wreck. Going into that welcome weekend that we provide for students here on campus before we actually head abroad, I was super nervous that I wasn't going to have any connections with any of the students going on my program, as I was going on an agriculture-based program, and as I kind of talked about with my majors and experiences, that's not exactly my area of expertise. So I just kind of figured I wouldn't super fit in with any of the students, and that, yeah, I was super nervous to go without my family. I'm definitely very close with them, and coming to SDSU for the first time as an incoming freshman, I knew nobody here on campus, and so just that entire idea of leaving my small town high school where I knew everybody and everyone's name to coming here and I knew absolutely no one was really challenging. But I will say that study abroad was one of the things that helped me the most coming back on campus. Being abroad with the group of students that I did, even though we didn't necessarily have a ton on paper that would have us be similar and common and stuff like that, we just connected so well. I think that a lot of the students who go abroad would vouch for the fact that even though you might not be super similar with everyone. You're going to make connections and friendships, and those connections and friendships are going to be lifelong friendships because you're going and experiencing things and growing together as individuals. And yeah, I would say that the majority of my friends that I still have on campus as a junior, I met through studying abroad on my freshman year program, my sophomore year program, and just through the connections that the office has provided me. So I would say that studying abroad, yeah, it can just super help your mental well-being by having that support system once you get back on campus.
Great. Kind of with that, so Cassandra, when you're talking with students about exploring the idea of going on the study abroad, what are some of those common fears and hesitations that you hear from students before going abroad, and how do you help them work through those?
So one of the things that I hear about is really like FOMO, fear of missing out, like, oh, I'm going to be away. What am I missing? But really in having conversations with students, sometimes it's really like looking at either our timelines, the things that you can do while you're abroad. I find that really helps. Sometimes too, kind of piggybacking a little bit off of what Kailee was talking about with the fear of not knowing anyone. The majority of our students at SDSU study abroad on faculty-led programs where they're going with SDSU faculty leaders, they're going with other SDSU students. Our Jack Start program is really unique in that in a lot of ways it's kind of a flip or reverse of the format of more of our faculty-led programs, where it's a little bit more common generally that students might go out with their group and do the travel in May, but they've had time during the spring semester, to meet regularly, to really get to know their faculty member, their fellow classmates, to spend time talking about not just the place that they're going to go, but any sort of like, if there's a discipline focus or just general regional cultural traits that are really unique to their place, spending time getting familiar before they go. Whereas with Jack Start, we kind of we have our welcome weekend, and then like we hit the road running, and then we get to have students in class to really deconstruct through that first semester coming back. Some of our students who also go on semester-long programs or more independent summer programs, even if they're the only SDSU student going on that program, they're going to a campus that expects them, that is planning for them, that has an orientation set up to help them connect with the other students who are all going to experience really that same thing, whether it's to go and see Italy for the first time or maybe to study Spanish. And so they're forming and making those connections together, and in that way really forming a community.
Great, awesome. We've kind of talked about going out of your comfort zone, right? And I think that's sometimes challenging for students to do at that kind of younger age. So what kind of growth do you see in students that embrace that challenge?
Really, seeing a lot more confidence in their abilities. There's so many ways I feel like to articulate it, but again, they've developed those problem-solving skills, developing their independence. There's a greater willingness to reach out and connect with others. Having that experience of going away and navigating these new spaces, they're a lot more comfortable doing it again, or being in a space where like, oh, I don't know anybody, but hey, I've had that before in, more foreign spaces, and I can, join this club or participate in like a leadership opportunity.
I feel like one of the things we kind of like to say in regards to studying abroad is that it makes you more comfortable with being uncomfortable, because you're in those experiences that are oftentimes brand new and sometimes culturally very different than what we would experience in the United States. You might come back and then everything in the United States seems familiar, and you're able to just breeze through it so much easier. I would agree with Cassandra completely that just having conversations with people can even come back, and it's so much easier as you've gone abroad and talked to random locals that you might meet on the street or in during your learning experiences, and just get to come back and just have that ability to talk with anybody when you get back on campus.
Coming in from the student affairs background, the co-curricular is very near and dear to my heart. So I'm loving this, right? You get to go and have some fun, but you're learning as well. So what do you think that studying abroad prepares students for life after college? Both maybe professionally and personally. And I think you maybe touched some of this already, Kailee, but how do you think that could maybe help kind of project you into your profession?
I mean, just kind of like what we've talked about with your increased adaptability, oftentimes I feel like that is what an employer is going to look at when they're looking at your resume. If they see that you've studied abroad, it might not just be, oh, they went and traveled abroad in Italy for a few weeks and got to see a bunch of pretty sights. It's also that they put themselves in an experience where they were uncomfortable, and the employer can kind of pick up on that and understand that that person has put themselves in uncomfortable experiences and can kind of be that person that they can look to if they have new ideas that somebody else might not want to try out and stuff like that. And also, a lot of the times where you're going, if you're going for more of a semester-long opportunity, there might be chances for kind of career development in terms of internships, or kind of getting just to be at a different university might be something, if you're looking for graduate school opportunities, that those graduate schools might consider putting you higher on their consideration list because you have those experiences.
And I would really say too, we do spend a lot of time too talking with students about potential internships, community engagement opportunities. Some programs do have more, especially for our short-term faculty-led programs, do have more of that discipline focus. And so that is sometimes a way for students to really be able to expand their global network and making those connections with, hey, how do we have these beef practices in Australia and New Zealand that Dr. Julie Walker's programs really go and show you, or the difference in the healthcare system in Ghana that the Human Bio group every year has. And so I also really think that in addition to semesters, that summer can be a great opportunity for students to explore what options would look like.
That really, my next question was really about shaping the students to be more empathetic and globally minded citizens, which you mentioned that. Do you have any other examples that you could maybe tell us about of how students became more empathetic when they returned from their country that they have visited or studied abroad?
I mean, I think some of it is just that experience of going away and seeing that for all the differences in the location, in some of either the healthcare systems or what have you, people are still people. They have their families that they love and their cultures, their celebrations, but they're just like us, and that experience really helps to take away maybe from some of the fear. I think, too, that getting to see and really engage with kind of some of the mechanics of how that different education system can work, what expectations in a different place help set you up post-school or as you head into that internship, working with people who have had different experiences from your own.
Great. Anything more to add there, Kailee?
I would say I would definitely piggyback on the fact that it just definitely opens a student's perspective that there is a big world besides just yourself. I mean, for me specifically, before I went abroad, I'd always wanted to travel, but I had little to no knowledge of the goings on in the world around me. And when I went abroad, I was actually an architecture major, and I went abroad and got to experience all of the different cultures and the different global perspectives. We actually had the opportunity on my freshman year Jack Start program to go to the European Commission, and I got to hear from some different policymakers talk about the differences of aquaculture and different global practices over there. And it just really inspired me and opened my eyes that there is so much going on in the world that I wasn't familiar with. And being someone who does like to learn a lot, I came back and I actually switched my major to political science on a pre-law route to kind of explore those opportunities. And I'm now pursuing a career in international adoption law potentially. But just sometimes students might have those eye-opening opportunities where they go abroad and they get to see that there is such a big world out there, and that there's people who need help, and there's also people who are doing things better than we are here. And so that it just really advances your global perspective and your empathy to the other people around you. Like Cassandra said, there's people out there and they become real when you travel abroad and you get to interact with them in local restaurants and local pubs and stuff like that. They are real people, and then getting to have those conversations, you might even keep some of those connections and friendships that you make abroad when you come back to the United States.
That's great. You've become that global-minded citizen by traveling. That's wonderful. So there's a big well-being component, of course, in belonging in community when you're traveling, whether that's with your group you're traveling or within the city that you're traveling to. How do students find or build that sense of belonging while they're abroad, whether it's within your group or within maybe the university that they're studying at?
I would say you would be surprised by how fast students connect together on study abroad programs. I mean, not to say that they're forced to be friends, but you're grouped up together and you're going through these experiences, and just kind of by human nature, I think everyone just kind of connects in a way, and you get to know each other on such a faster basis because you have that time to travel and fly and sit in the airport and get to just be together and connect. And I think that those friendships really develop, and then usually I would say they continue back on campus. In my 3 study abroad opportunities, I've seen that most of the students that go abroad and form tight bonds, that those bonds stay strong when they get back on campus.
I would also say that as we prepare students to go abroad, and we kind of incorporate elements of this into the welcome weekend for the Jack Start, but as students prepare to go out, we do something called a pre-departure session, and we all get together. And one of the things that we'll talk about is something called the study abroad roller coaster. And it's literally this line graph where there's highs and then there's some lows. Like there's the high of being excited to get to go and all the new things you're going to see. Maybe a little bit of a low of like, oh my gosh, the travel here was so much. Everything's so different. And then really having that time and space to sit and think about like, what is new, how things work here versus back home. And then, so it kind of pops up and down. But then as you come back, there's also that element of thinking through, oh, we've had this experience and we're back and working on. And so when students have that experience together, I think it's also, there's an element of community building and bonding there.
Right. So when they do return, kind of back to reality, right, is kind of what you were thinking, I'm guessing. So how can faculty and staff help support those students in maintaining that like a broad mindset of that curiosity and openness and resilience once they come back to SDSU?
I would honestly just say keeping up with the opportunities for students that require them to be adaptable and creative. I think a lot of the time when students get back on campus, they have the perspective that they're just going to be strictly in a routine, but providing those opportunities on campus where you get to go out of your comfort zone and go to different cultural events or different opportunities that engage students in a way that they might not be in some of their regular classes can often be a good way for students to kind of continue that global perspective.
I would agree, and I think the other thing is that it's something that students are able to take with them going forward, even beyond. And so just some of the same support of as students are transitioning out into their next exciting opportunities.
So studying abroad sounds wonderful, right? But it might be out of reach for some students to be able to afford. What are some ways that your office can help make these opportunities accessible and affordable for students to take advantage of?
So we really work hard to try to have programs that are as accessible as possible. We work really closely with financial aid for our short-term programs like the Jack Start program to make sure they check the boxes to be financially aid eligible. We have some really great partners for our semester students that allow students on campus to go and study abroad for essentially the cost of studying here in Brookings on campus and the cost of their airplane ticket. We also work with students to the best of our ability on scholarships. We're really proud to have had a number of students be awarded the Gilman Scholarship, which is a federally funded scholarship for Pell Grant recipients. So it's little bits and pieces to just support each student individually.
It's really rewarding for your team, I bet, to be able to
is.
have that opportunity to help those students in these experiences. So how can study abroad experience align with the SDSU mission of fostering well-being and lifelong learning?
While you're studying abroad, you're not only getting to go out and experiences different sites and different foods and experiences and stuff like that. You are also getting to take classes while you're abroad that might be vastly different than what we can provide here at SDSU. You get such different global perspectives and maybe different faculty abroad that might open your eyes. And I think that kind of connects with the SDSU's goal of just providing lifelong learning with our partnerships. You get to have both of those experiences where you're getting to learn here at SDSU in your classrooms and getting the knowledge and accessibility from these professors here on campus, and then also getting to go abroad and experiencing whatever knowledge and gifts that they can provide for you as a student over there as well.
Great. So what advice would you give a student who's on the fence about studying abroad? And I'm going to start with Kailee.
I would say that even if you're afraid to do it and you might be nervous and worried, that all of the positives are going to outweigh any negative you might have. I mean, I have had some flight difficulties occasionally, which is completely out of our control in terms of SDSU. But during those, you might have said that 11-hour delay in the airport might have kind of given me a bad perception of studying abroad, but that was only the beginning to my journey. And then I got to go to Ireland and get to see all of the sites and get to meet so many new people. I think that's one of my favorite parts of studying abroad, is not only getting to be in different environments and cultures, but the people, because they're the ones who make it special. And I would just say that studying abroad this is the best time to travel, in my opinion. We're still learning and developing and growing as people, and to go right now and get the chance to have your mindset changed at a young age, I think it makes you a stronger and more developed person and can make you consider what's going on in the world around you. And I think that all of the positives of studying abroad, whether that's getting to travel too, I mean, we might talk all about the well-being back on campus, but I think getting to see those experiences and getting to do that while you're young and a student is a great opportunity. And maybe those little flukes might seem like a big deal at the time, but looking back on all my experiences, I would say that I would go through all of those little negatives just to have my experiences again.
As a professional staff, what is your elevator speech? Give advice to a student that is on the edge.
Come talk to us if you're on the edge, so that we can find the program that is going to be the fit for you and see you just go off and explore the world.
Great. And I'm sure there's other students like yourself, Kailee, that are willing to kind of give some perspectives of different experiences that students have had here at SDSU.
Yeah, so we actually have a program here at SDSU through the Study Abroad office called the Global Ambassadors Program. And so I actually lead this program now, being the student chair for that. And so we kind of meet together and we all kind of come up with ideas on how to market and kind of show other students how studying abroad has changed our lives. And I would say that the majority of these students that come back, they're super engaged and they want to help and they want to show other students how studying abroad has changed their life. We often go to many tabling events throughout the year, at events like Senior Day or Junior Day, where we're getting to talk to those students who haven't gotten the chance to study abroad. And I always love to hear some of my fellow peers' answers and how they describe their studying abroad experiences, because I didn't get to experience all of the countries they did. And everyone has their own unique perspectives and stories and benefits. And I would say that everybody would come back and say that studying abroad has changed them for the better.
Great. Okay, final question. In one sentence, how would you describe the connection between well-being and going abroad?
I think that spending time abroad allows you to expand your horizons and just to step outside and see the world, which will only develop and support your well-being.
I would say studying abroad fosters new friendships, opportunity, and a global perspective that will truly change your mind and your mental well-being in a better way than you could ever imagine.
Well, thank you. I don't know. I want to go and book a ticket somewhere. I love to travel, though. But thank you both for joining us today and really showing us how those global experiences are connected to well-being and how we can build that confidence and connection both at SDSU and beyond. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of State of Wellbeing, a podcast from South Dakota State University. This podcast is brought to you by the Mental Wellbeing Team and SD State Health.